Hey, welcome to the Sales Performance Insights Podcast. I am Frank Gustafson, your host, and I'm excited that you're here today. We're talking about a super important subject. Look, if you're in sales, if you're in sales leadership, or you coach sales teams like I do, you know this particular truth, and that is not every deal is going to close. We all lose deals. Sometimes it's for good reasons. Sometimes it's for reasons that we really don't even understand. But here's the thing. Most teams don't learn from those losses. They move on. They change the forecast. They chase the next opportunity, and they never stop long enough to ask, hey, what the heck just happened here? And that is what we're digging into today. Why is it critical to debrief lost deals, and how doing that can completely change the way that you sell? Look, losing a deal is tough. It stings. But ultimately, you put in the time, you put in the effort, you followed up, you did the proposals, you did the demos, you did all the back and forth, and then the buyer goes with someone else, or worse yet, they decide to do nothing. And what do most salespeople do? Well, they shrug, they update the CRM, and they move on. And that's human nature, right? We don't like to look back at the things that didn't work out. But when we skip that reflection step, we don't just lose that deal, we lose the opportunity for a lesson. I love what John Maxwell said. He said, experience teaches nothing, but evaluated experience teaches everything. And that quote hits me every time I hear it because, look, in sales, we've all got tons of experience. But the real question is, are we evaluating that experience? There's another quote by a man who I have followed for years and love dearly, and that is Zig Ziglar. And Zig said that failure is an event. It's never a person. Losing a deal doesn't mean that you're a bad salesperson. It just means that something in the process broke down, and breakdowns are fixable if you take the time to look at them. That's what debriefing really is. It's never a punishment. It can't be punitive, right? It's simply a chance to ask, what can we learn from this so we don't repeat this next time? There's been a lot of studies on this. Harvard Business Review did a study here a while back, and they looked at over 2 million B2B sales calls. And what they found was that 40 to 60% of those sales calls, those deals, in a no decision. CSO Insights did some study as well. And what they found is that even forecasted deals fall apart around 20% of the time. So we're not just losing to competitors. We're losing to indecision. We're losing to confusion. We're losing to risk avoidance. And if you're not debriefing, you'll never know what the truth is. When I talk about debriefing deals, look, I'm not talking about some long, drawn-out postmortem where everybody points fingers. That is absolutely not helpful. A good debrief is short, it's honest, and it's focused. You can do a good debrief in 15 to 20 minutes. There's some things that I think we really want to learn from that debrief. We want to get the facts on the table, just the facts, no opinions. We want to capture the buyer's exact wording. What did they really say? We want to figure out the real reason. What's the real reason that they needed to either make a change? What's the real reason that they decided to go somewhere else? We want to spot the early warning signs, and they're there. And if we look back, we'll find those. We want to ask, hey, if we could rewind 2 weeks, what would we have done differently? And then pull out a clear lesson, What's the truth, right? Once you have that, you learn from it and you move on. Hey, when you start doing this consistently, several things happen. You start to see patterns of the same reasons for losses, like price confusion. Not price, but price confusion, or missing decision makers, folks that we never engaged with. Sellers start to ask better questions, and they ask those questions earlier. Your culture changes, and people replace ego with curiosity. And honestly, this is where growth starts. Hey, if you want your team to open up to you, leader, you've got to be honest. You've got to have honest debriefs. And this starts with you. If you react with frustration, your people are just going to hide losses. If you react with curiosity, people begin to open up. They start to bring you their problems earlier and more readily. The best teams normalize learning from failure. They don't just say, hey, why did we lose this deal? They say, what did we learn from losing this deal? Here's a few questions that you might use today or tomorrow or next week in a debrief. First, hey, what problem was a buyer really trying to solve? And then maybe, did we make them feel or understand the cost of doing nothing? Maybe let's ask, who influenced the decision that we never even engaged with? Where did their confidence in us drop off? What could we have done earlier to change the outcome? And there's probably some things there that you would have done earlier in the process. Look, sales is not, and it never has been, and it never will be about perfection. It's about progress. You're going to lose some deals. But if you evaluate those losses, you'll learn to see the lessons, and that'll lead to better wins. Remember what Zig said, failure is an event, never a person. Remember what John Maxwell said, evaluated experience is where wisdom comes from. So ask yourself, when was the last time that you and your team really looked at a lost deal and asked, what was this deal trying to teach us? What was the lesson here? What do we need to learn from this lost deal? Because look, your next big win just might be hiding in the insight of that lost deal. Hey, thanks for listening. I'm Frank Gustafson, your host here at the Sales Performance Insights podcast. Hey, if you liked anything that you heard here today, put it into use. If you want to talk about it, I'm here. Love to talk about it. And if you liked something that you think maybe somebody else that you know could use, please pass it along to them. And until next time, keep learning, keep selling, keep growing, and always remember, no one ever got fired for improving sales performance. Until next time.